Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about something that I have to believe impacts everybody's life, whether it's you directly or it's somebody you know that is dealing with this, that it's also impacting your life. Maybe you're trying to help them with it. What am I talking about? I'm talking about trauma. And when I say that word, a lot of times it conjures up a picture of a car accident. And yeah, certainly that is trauma. But there are many traumas that we suffer from that you wouldn't even think they are trauma. And we're going to talk about that today and how to deal with it. And a beautiful story is about to unfold here. We're going to get to that with Heather, who is an amazing life coach, trauma coach, eating disorder specialist, and so much more. And she's back with us. Hi, Heather. How you doing?
Hey, Steve. Good to see you again.
You too. You too. Your story is remarkable in that it does involve trauma. I don't want to leave Carrie floating out there.
Absolutely.
So we're going to bring her in here as well. You're connected to her. In what way?
So Carrie and I both were doing life coach training, and I graduated, and we had a barter program that you can do where you work with other coaches that have graduated from the school. It's called IPAC, and it's one of the leading life coaching schools. Anyways, I got the opportunity to coach Carrie and found out she was a trauma specialist or trauma coach. And I knew nothing about trauma. It wasn't on my radar. I didn't even begin to think, thought I had a very normal childhood. And by the end of 3 months, we realized that I did have trauma, and Carrie laid out a plan for me to both do training to heal and then also to help me get certified in working with trauma. And one of the things that I realized for myself through all of this, that I'd had an eating disorder for a long time, and I found out that this was really the root of my eating disorder and the original cause of it. And they go very deep. It starts when we're in a child, and they can impact our relationships. They can impact how we show up at the office, can impact how we deal with life. So I'd love to introduce Carrie, who is also a trauma specialist.
Oh, I think we lost her there. Hi, Carrie. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, Heather, if you can hear us, I think we have a little. There you go. You're back. You're back with us. I find it so interesting that you were helping Carrie, but then it was discovered that Carrie was actually also helping you. I mean, wow. Yeah. And what a wonderful thing, bartering between coaches, therapists, whatever, as everybody helps each other become even better so that they can help others. Amazing. Carrie, when you first worked with Heather, what did you discover?
It was in some of the things that she said, some of the decisions that she was making that caused me to ask her questions about her needs in life and the boundaries that she had to support those needs. And in our conversation, when she was unfolding these needs, as I'm asking her these questions, she started talking about the eating disorder. And that kind of just unfolded a whole bunch of other stuff, right? Wow. So it's about helping people learn how to connect the dots from their childhood to their adulthood and the decisions that they're making. You become programmed with survival strategies as a child when you run into a situation that's really too big for you to handle. Right. And so in my conversation with her and learning about her and questioning her about her needs and her boundaries, it sort of unfolded into this beautiful awareness for her that allowed her to move forward in a way that was going to serve her better.
So questions here. By the way, Carrie, your term of connecting the dots, it's one of my favorite ones. And in my journey, that's what I did. I had hypnotherapy. My childhood wasn't horrible, but it wasn't typical normal, if you will. What's normal? I don't know. But I said to the practitioner, I've already connected the dots. Take me back. I know where I got to go. Not everybody knows that. And in Heather's situation, you knew you had an eating disorder. Did you suspect you did, or you
Oh,
knew?
no, I did. I had it was diagnosed. I was bulimic for 18 years and I had gone into recovery. And what happened is about 19 years later, I had kind of, my life kind of fell apart. My dad had died. I'd made some decisions where I made lots of changes in my life, and I found out I really didn't have a lot of support. And I ended up in a therapist office and I said, my life's not working. I'm not sure why, but I think I'm part of the problem. And my life literally started to unfold then. And it was, as I always put God in the middle, because he was definitely there guiding me. And so I got into life coaching along there, found terminologies that I'd never even heard before, like limiting beliefs and other things. And then that's where I met Carrie, and Carrie got me on the trauma. So but
Hmm.
Carrie's story is also very interesting because she had severe trauma,
Wow. Are
and
you,
the fact that she's where she is and doing as well as she is I think a credit to who she is.
can you share with us, Carrie?
Oh, yeah. Um, I grew up in a really dysfunctional home. I was sexually abused by 14 people between the ages of 2 and 15, which were mostly family members and neighbors. And my mother knew about the abuse, and her solution was to shame and blame me. So I really had no protection, and she just swept it all under the rug. And then she went around and told the whole family that I was a liar, so I wouldn't be believed, if I decided to tell someone else. So I learned at a really, really young age that I was not safe and emotional expression was not safe. And so I disassociated from my feelings, and that became my superpower. And so, like, my whole entire world, it felt physically wrong. And I had no idea who I was or who I was supposed to be. And being shamed by my mother and the abuse, that really derailed my intuition, and it changed how I walked in the world. And so from there, I built like this fortress of emotional solitude where I locked myself away. And that was the foundation of my childhood.
Wow. When you say you locked yourself away, that was while you were growing up?
Yeah, it was like from the time I was a little kid, I stuffed all of my emotions, and I didn't feel like I was ever safe to express them. And so that affected all of my relationships, because we're we're human beings. We're supposed to have emotions and share, and that's how we connect and bond with one another.
I can't imagine, call it your heart wall, like hitting the ceiling. There's nothing coming through. Carrie, what was your aha moment when you truly felt that I broke the wall? Like I'm coming through here.
Wow. I mean, like, I broke the wall. I think along the way, I always felt different from other people. I always describe my childhood by saying I was raised on damage and I survived on rage, and my psyche was held together by a spit and a prayer, right? It's like what I call soul murder. But I think along the way, I started understanding that I had these needs, and I wasn't honoring myself. Like I was still having conversations with myself, trying to figure it all out. But then one day my father said to me, you need to make a decision whether you want to invest in your future or invest in your past, right? You can either invest in your self-sabotaging bullshit, or you can invest in a good life for yourself. And when he said that, it occurred to me that I had the power to choose whether or not I wanted to walk in the world according to how someone else dictated or how I dictated, right?
I
And
guess
so
I'm sorry.
and so that was really a revelation to me, because I had attempted suicide when I was 15, and I thought, wow, if I have the power to take my life, I have the power to change it.
Hmm. When did your dad tell you that?
Um, I was probably in my 20s, my early 20s, and it was after another emotional meltdown, of a relationship with someone gone wrong in the family, not really knowing how to emotionally express myself or have those mature conversations. I when my dad said that to me, I thought, wow, like I really need to get on the ball here and be able to be like vulnerable to people, because without showing my vulnerability, they won't understand where I'm coming from. It doesn't have to be always right. I'm allowed to say, I'm very sorry. I'm learning how to express myself, right? And I'm allowed to choose the people that I want to be around if they're not treating me well.
Did you feel when your father said that, oh, wait a minute, I've been giving my power to these people that did me wrong when I was younger, family members. It's unspeakable, but you were giving them that opportunity to take your power. Did you feel that?
Yeah, I did feel that, but I also felt that I understood that I wasn't emotionally mature. Like I was failing myself in so many ways. I was settling for crumbs, right? Crumbs of affection, crumbs of attention from people, crumbs of love from people. I didn't know how to love myself because I had never been shown good love, and I didn't know how to demand respect because I had never been given respect, right? And I didn't know how to set boundaries because I was never taught how to set boundaries. And so when he said that to me, I thought, wow, like my childhood right now has a front row seat in my adult life, right? So all that feelings and emotions I had as a kid when I went to my mother that day, they were coming back in real time. And so every time I had a conflict with somebody or something didn't work out, I was feeling those emotions.
I'm far from the expert here, but it sounds like what many people go through, not what you went through. I'm not even comparing. What I'm talking about is the stuff we've been through that sits in our subconscious, that is marinating all the time. We don't even know it's operating us in our adult life. It seems like you got it. You saw it, it was in front of you. Wait a minute, that's back then, but this is the way I'm operating now, and I need to get around that. You saw it in a different way, where a lot of us, hypnotherapy, work in progress, but it was all part of that, and we all, I think, I truly believe a lot of what we go through is from our childhood. Even if the littlest thing could be in your adult life, the biggest thing, it just kind of works that way with our subconscious. For you, Heather, did you even have a inkling, a thought that your eating disorder was tied to something from your past, or you just thought, I got this thing?
I knew that it had happened as things sort of got derailed, and I wasn't really clear on the reason, but I kept on going back to that. And it was interesting when I got into the therapist's office and I said, my life's not working. I think I'm part of the problem. It was after my dad died. I couldn't even admit that I had that much shame and take responsibility for it until I felt safe enough within myself to admit it. So I had no idea that was, I knew that there was stuff that we didn't work in our family. And as I said, we got derailed, but I really didn't know the connection. I just thought it was really normal. I grew up around that. And when Carrie started talking about it, you started realizing that it wasn't loving. And your needs get subjugated. And when you realize that you have to become someone else and you're trying to do that your whole life, your life doesn't work.
Uh, Big question, Carrie.
Okay.
They say the power of forgiveness is everything. Did you forgive?
Yeah. I do feel like the whole world speaks of forgiveness, but forgiveness isn't easy. And so,
I'm not saying it is, believe me.
yeah,
I wasn't making a situation lighter at
yeah.
all, at all.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, you can forgive and still be angry. The world thinks, well, if you're still angry, you haven't forgiven. And that's not true. Anger is emotion that we're given because it's there to say, hey, somebody should seek justice for you if you can't seek it for yourself. But, I
I'll
made
be that guy. If I could, I would. And I'm just going to say that and let it
yeah,
go.
yeah. It's like you have to understand that you can't change the past, right? That was a big one for me too. I had to come to terms that I couldn't change the past. And as long as you're not seeking revenge on people, you've actually forgiven, right? It's about choosing not to seek revenge on them and to wish them well above everything else that they've done to you and move forward.
I think that's the key. And of course, we don't condone what somebody has done. The wish them well, I think, is the key component there, where how are you going to get revenge anyway? It's not typically practical in many situations. And why would you? It's not the right thing to do. But wishing them well and just signing them off, it's like putting them in a balloon and letting them go to the sky and you're done. I think it carries a lot of weight. Not easy. Definitely not easy.
Well, you're realizing that sin pays for itself, right?
Do you mean that in a karma-like way?
I do. Absolutely do. It does. I mean, at some point, we're born such spiritual beings, and we change as we evolve in the world. And when we get older in life, we want to get back to being those simplistic spiritual beings we were born to be, right? And in order
how do I get there? How do I get there?
Well,
what road do I turn down?
It's a lot of healing is the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And for those that choose not to and choose not to repent, sin pays for itself. It digs a hole for you.
And we're not even talking about religion or anything here. It's just, I believe there's a universe. And your thoughts, Heather, what do you feel?
I'm 100%. I think the universe works for us, but we have to do the work. Yeah. And it's, it's also taking responsibility for ourselves, that we're responsible for our life. The other thing is that many of us come from intergenerational trauma. So my parents had their own trauma. So it's really completing the story and writing a new story for your family.
It's a really good point. And I think it's a point that is not brought up enough, because what we dealt with from our parents, and I'm not saying for the most part our parents did anything wrong. Yes, there are some. But they were acting on many times how they were parented and how they were parented, and on and on and on until you break the chain. First, you have to realize it. Until you break it, there's not going to be any change.
Hurt people. That's right. So, I know we're going to be finished. What I'd love to do is take a minute and talk about what Carrie's doing and what I'm doing and how people can get a hold of us.
Please.
Because I think people are going to realize that trauma impacts them more than they realized. And like you said, it can be just changing a few limiting beliefs that you might have believed when you were 13 that became very big. When it's uncovering those and writing a new story for yourself. So I can be reached at heatherkilgore.com, www.heatherkilgore.com, or email at heather@heatherkilgore.com. And as I said, I work with, I specialize in complex trauma with addictions and eating disorders, including top athletes. Because it's interesting, often athletes will find that they start going, what they're successful at actually becomes their nemesis, because they stop, their life gets out of balance, and what they do is it's hard for them to be vulnerable and ask for help. So they become very perfection driven, and it's trying to break through that so they can be more accepting and be kinder to themselves. And then I'd love Carrie to explain a little bit about what she's doing, because she has some exciting stuff.
Oh, thank you, Heather. Well, I'm a life and trauma recovery coach, but what I also do is I not only coach, but I certify others as trauma specialists when they enroll in an accredited Trauma Well CTS course. It's a course designed to as a catalyst to their own healing. And the beautiful thing about the CTS course is it's designed to help an individual recognize trauma in themselves and others, and to show up in a trauma-informed way and build trauma-informed practices in their current profession, as well as support in building healing and sustainable relationships, making a difference in the lives of others. And in addition to students, our students, they actually get to be a part of a vast and robust community of trauma professionals who will support them throughout their training and beyond, and in ways that support them and continue personal and professional development. So this is where they will meet themselves like never before. And they can find that information on my website at carriecoaching.com.
Just amazing stories, and everything that in this short period of time that we talked about is so relevant.
Mhm.
And I'm proud of you both from where
Thank
you
you.
were to where you are, and realizing what went, connecting the dots, what actually happened along the way. And I believe there are, and it's a cliche, there are no coincidences. The fact that you two were put together is just, it's magical. There's nothing else there's no other word how your synergies all work together, where one person is helping the other person, and then the other person realizes something and helps the other one. Like, that's the
And
way it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
that's exactly how, and that's exactly how this works is you find your resources, but you have to shine the light, and then, the universe will help you find the things to lean on. It's just trusting. One of the things that you lose is your intuition when you're in trauma, and learning
Hmm.
to heal is learning to go inward and trust your intuition and listening to your guide and starting to say, does this feel good? Does this feel right for me? Does this fill me up? Or or is this not something that's good for me? So you're learning to use yourself as your guide, which you disconnected with when you were in trauma.
Mhm.
I never realized that. And
Yeah.
what a well, for me, that's an epiphany right there. Because
Mm.
I believe everything we need, all I need is within me now. It's all there. The answer is, what am I going to do? I don't know, go this way, go that way. You have the answer. However, you ever notice some days where, wow, things are really clear today. And then other days, it's just like brain foggy. I can't even it's just like
Yeah.
it's a mess. And it's probably the trauma that either you're aware of or you're not, but it's kind of creeping its way back in there. And until you realize it and deal with it. And Heather, thanks for bringing up the, professional athletes. We look at people, put them on a pedestal, like, whoa, they did it. Wow, look at that. The more successful an athlete is, many of them, what you're saying is the more trouble they have.
Yeah.
So all the money and everything, okay, great. That's not going to help after a certain point.
Right.
It's I'm sure many of them say, the ones that have gone through a lot of trauma or are dealing with it might even be looking at it and say, I $2,000 and I'd be happy. I don't care. I need to heal. I need to feel me. I need to feel better. And
I'm
that's what you
glad that you
guys.
said that because, I talked about how I realized my childhood had a front row seat in my life. What we do as when we're traumatized as children is we pick up where those have hurt us left off. And we continue to traumatize ourselves when what we really need is we need to nurture our soul. We have these wounded little beings inside of us, right? Our inner children.
Yeah.
And we need to gain an awareness of ourselves to heal ourselves. And we need an awareness of who we are and what we need to fit in. And we need to understand that when we're at that point where we're really wanting to figure that out, we're there because our need to understand who we are is outweighing our fear of operating in the world every day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's important. That's us trying to get back to those simplistic spiritual beings that we were meant to be.
You mean
And
like
it's,
when we were first born?
Yes.
and it's much easier to live life not being a perfectionist,
Well,
which is,
if you have a minute, I can break down trauma in just a little paragraph here if we have a minute.
We literally have a minute.
Okay.
okay.
We're born with this absolute great love for ourselves. And we express ourselves without apology. We want nothing more than to connect with other people and spread our love and light around the world. And then someone or our environment comes along and tells us that our authentic self is not good enough. And all that love that we have for ourselves is replaced by fear of how to navigate the world. And then what we do is we're wrapped in this profound guilt because we're forced to abandon that great love we have for ourselves out of fear of not being accepted because we've been rejected from our family. Then we show up as a chameleon in every relationship trying to say, who do I need to be so Steve likes me? What do I need to wear so Heather likes me? What do I need to say so people find me intelligent? And then we start making decisions that go against our authentic self that really are not what we want to do to please other people, right? By showing up as a chameleon. And then the shame kicks in. And then that shame becomes toxic because we're living our lives for others instead of living our lives for ourselves. We're saying yes when we really want to say no. and so on and so on, right? So we continue to hurt ourselves like others have hurt us in the past. And it's really just because we're seeking that love, attention, and acceptance that we were denied from our family or our, the people that were supposed to care for us.
So well said. And when you talk about when we're first born and we just have so much love and we're clean slate, we're all the same. We're born. We're all the same. We're born. Now picture that 2-year-old, that 3-year-old, that 4-year-old internalizing all this crap that's around. And it might not be intentional. It could be just you walk past the kitchen and mom and dad are talking and they say this one comment and you're like, that's me. And the seed has been planted and your life is effed up. I've never said that on a podcast, and there it is.
Right.
It's screwed up for the rest of your life. And final thought, when you said being your authentic self, think back to maybe moments where you really felt you were your authentic self. What a great feeling.
Yeah.
Like the rainbow and the sun came out. It's just like, it felt good. Maybe you don't know what it is, but you felt it. You should feel that all the time.
Yeah. Well said.
I agree.
Heather, website again for everybody.
Heather, www.heatherkilgore.com. So that's HEATHER, Kilgore, KIL, G as in girl, orange and O as in orange, R as in red, and then E as in elephant.com. And
Carrie, how do we find you?
Carrie Coaching. It's www.KERRICOACHING.com. Fabulous
talking with you both. Thank you so much for your honesty and transparency in your lives to help others. And I truly appreciate you being here today. Really do.
Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you both. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.